There's a pattern some people notice only after it's happened 3, 4, 5 times. Different faces, different names, same exact shape of relationship. Same eventual disappointment, same quiet, dawning sense of deja vu. Somewhere around month 4, when the warning signs that felt invisible at the start looking, in hindsight, almost identical to last time. You might recognize this. Not bad luck exactly. Something more specific. A type. A gravitational pull toward people who, on paper, were never going to be good for you, and somehow, every single time, felt like exactly the right person to walk toward anyway. It can look like coincidence, like simply having bad luck with people, but underneath it is usually something quieter and more precise, a compass that was calibrated a long time ago, pointing toward something familiar, mistaking that familiarity for chemistry. Picture someone on a third date, sitting across from someone new, listening to them talk. This new person is charming in a specific way, a little unpredictable, a little hard to read, the kind of person whose attention feels like it has to be earned rather than simply given. And something in this person's chest lights up. Not calm, not safety. Something closer to electricity. A low hum of, I need to figure this person out. The same feeling they'd later describe to a friend as just felt different, like real chemistry. Across town at the same hour, someone else is also on a date. With someone steady, warm, consistent, easy to talk to, who texts back when they say they will, and means what they say. And this person finds themselves, oddly, a little bored, a little unmoved, already mentally drafting how to let this one down gently, because nothing in their body is lighting up the way it did with the unpredictable one. Neither of them notices in the moment what their own nervous system just did, mistaking anxiety for attraction and mistaking calm for a lack of it. This pull rarely starts with the person sitting across the table. It usually starts decades earlier, in a much smaller room, with whoever first taught the nervous system what love was supposed to feel like. For some, it began in a childhood home where love was inconsistent, a parent who was warm sometimes and distant or unpredictable other times, where affection had to be earned through vigilance, through reading moods correctly, through working for it. Children raised this way don't learn that love feels calm. They learn that love feels like effort, like uncertainty, like a small ongoing project to win. So as adults, calm and consistent can register, confusingly, as boring, because it doesn't match the only definition of love the body ever learned. For others, it grew out of a specific relationship that imprinted hard. An early heartbreak, an unavailable first love, someone who came and went and never quite landed, leaving behind a template the nervous system kept reaching for afterward, the way you reach for a remote you've used for years even after the batteries die. There's a quieter version, too. People with a low, often unconscious sense of what they deserve, who find genuinely kind, available people slightly uncomfortable, almost suspicious, because being treated that well doesn't match the internal story they've been carrying about their own worth. Someone who treats them inconsistently, oddly, can feel more believable, more like, this is probably what I actually get. Picture a different version of this. Someone sitting on a friend's couch, describing a new relationship in detail. The late replies, the mixed signals, the way this new person runs hot and cold, warm one week, distant and vague the next. The friend listens, increasingly quiet, increasingly worried. This sounds a lot like your last relationship, she finally says gently. And the one before that. There's a pause, a long one. Not because the comparison isn't accurate, because it is immediately, uncomfortably accurate, in a way that lands somewhere underneath the ribs. It's different this time, though, comes the reply automatically, almost before the thought's been fully examined. He's just going through a lot right now. The friend doesn't push further. She's heard a version of this sentence 3 times before, about 3 different people, and some part of her already knows how this one ends too. And this pattern rarely looks like poor judgment from the outside. Often it just looks like someone unlucky in love, or someone who simply hasn't found the right person yet. It looks like mistaking intensity for connection, feeling most alive with people who keep you a little off balance, a little unsure where you stand, rather than with people who are simply plainly kind. It looks like explaining away red flags in real time. He's just busy. She's just guarded because of her past. Building a generous story around behavior that, described to a friend, would sound like an obvious warning sign. It looks like a specific kind of restlessness around emotionally available people, a vague sense of something's missing that's hard to name, because what's missing is actually the anxiety the nervous system has learned to associate with caring about someone. It looks like staying far longer than the relationship's quality would justify, mistaking the difficulty of leaving for proof of how much it must matter. And it can look like a pattern only visible in hindsight, looking back at a string of past relationships and noticing, with a kind of quiet dread, how similar the shape of each one actually was, despite how different each person seemed at the start. Here's the quiet cost of this pattern. Repeated enough times, it slowly convinces someone that the anxiety, the unpredictability, the working for it, is simply what love is. Full stop, rather than one particular, learned, avoidable version of it. Picture someone years into this cycle, genuinely exhausted, who started to believe that calm, available people are simply not their type, not realizing that not their type is actually the nervous system's way of saying, doesn't match what I was taught to expect, not an actual reflection of compatibility. There's a cost to trust, too, both in others and in their own judgment. Each relationship that follows the same painful shape chips away a little more at the belief that they can pick well, that their own instincts are reliable guides toward good things. Over time, some people stop trusting their gut entirely, which is its own kind of loss, separate from any one relationship. And there's a cost to the people who were actually good for them, the ones who got quietly passed over along the way, written off as boring, as lacking spark, simply for offering something the nervous system hadn't yet learned to recognize as safety rather than absence. The goal isn't to force yourself into relationships that feel flat just because they're supposed to be healthy. That's not the answer either. The real goal is narrower, learning to notice the difference between anxious chemistry and genuine connection, so the choice eventually becomes a real one instead of an old reflex running on autopilot. It starts with a small private question early in any new connection. Is this excitement, or is this anxiety wearing excitement's clothes? Often, anxious chemistry has a specific texture to it: uncertainty, a need to prove something, a slight knot in the stomach, while genuine connection tends to feel more like ease, even while still being exciting. Picture trying it once, on that same third date, with someone calm and consistent, instead of someone unpredictable. Picture noticing the quiet, almost suspicious thought. This feels too easy. And instead of treating that thought as information, treating it as exactly what it actually is: an old alarm going off in a building that isn't on fire. Notice what happens if you stay anyway, past the discomfort of easy. Slowly, over weeks, the nervous system starts learning a new definition. That calm can also mean wanted. That consistency isn't the absence of feeling, it's just the absence of fear. And maybe the most important thing to understand is this: attracting the wrong people again and again was never proof that you were bad at love. It was proof that somewhere along the way, your nervous system learned the wrong definition of what love was supposed to feel like, and it's been faithfully, loyally chasing that definition ever since. You don't have to keep mistaking chaos for chemistry. Calm was always allowed to be enough.